I call Shadow Minister Matt Vickers.
Nice and broad one. Are there any provisions you would like to see added to this bill to strengthen our ability to drive down illegal crossings?
So, yeah, I mean, looking at the clauses sort of in the chunks that they're in the bill, I mean, the first thing the Border Security Commander struck me as it's going to be another civil servant. I think it's going to be a Director General post in the Home Office. I mean, I was one of those, and we already have quite a lot of those. And I'm not sure that he's actually going to be able to command anything. I think he's probably going to be more a coordinator. I would like to see him and his team have law enforcement powers, so they've got powers to arrest and detain, same as officers have in the Border Force, in National Crime Agency, Immigration Enforcement. I think that whole governance structure does need attention, so it does need someone to pull it all together. But so I'm not sure that we've pitched that right, that post right in immigration law enforcement teams. I think on his reporting requirements that you've put in, I think he does need to regularly publish details of irregular arrivals by way of nationality, age, provide regular updates as to where they are in the process, so that we can all see where, if there are log jams in the process from arrival to either removal or grant, we can check the timelines. I think they've already got a dashboard in the Home Office that does that, so I presume he will be able to take responsibility for that. And I would also like to follow up on the point that Alp Mehmet made about removals and data on removals and the numbers of people who could be excluded currently under the NABA, under the National Borders Act, because they've come from a safe third country. That's still there, but we don't know the data of how many of those are actually on a case-by-case being removed. So I would like to see a country list of all the countries that are where we can remove people to, both for safe third country, for source countries, but also for third countries. Now, we know France won't take, or the EU won't take third country returns. In fact, without Rwanda, I don't think there are any countries that will take third country returns. There are countries that will take their own nationals back, but under this new system where we've done away with SORA and most of the IMA, then there doesn't seem to be a third country option outlet. Therefore, those people that come here from Iran or Iraq or Syria or Afghanistan know on the other side of the channel they need only get in the British territorial waters, and they will probably be allowed to stay in the UK, because they maybe well get asylum, but even if they don't, it's impossible to return them for one reason or another. So I'm really interested in that returns piece. I'm really keen on data from mobile devices to be captured. Some of them do keep their mobile phones. That data is being used for prosecution purposes only. I think that should be made available to officials who are considering their asylum. Quite often there's passport data on there, identity data, age data, travel history data, all data that we would really usefully have to consider an asylum application that's being held on those phones. So I think we need legislation to do that, and I would also use mobile devices to track people on bail who are given bail, so that we can use the tracker to know where they are in the event of an adverse decision from the Home Office, that we will be able to find them. At the moment we don't have powers to do that because of the Regulatory Powers Act. I would like to see an amendment that enabled that to happen. We know the tagging systems haven't really worked, and in the unlikely event, I don't expect the government will, but in the unlikely event that we were able to keep SORA or the Rwanda plan, then we really need to look, I think, at options for offshoring asylum claims, where we could send people who have arrived from a safe third country, if we can't send them back there, to another safe. There are a lot of conferences around the world on border developments, border security, border technologies, if you like. Your face will become your passport sooner or later, sooner rather in some countries than here. In that we could, if we had the powers and authorities, capture just a digital image, which is a biometric, of everybody entering and exiting the country, require the carriers to do likewise. We don't have physical embarkation controls. This is happening in America, it's happening in Dubai, it's happening in Singapore. We're going to Curacao, where they've got an actual walk-through border there now. And all it does is catch your face, it matches you to the API data that you've already got, uploads it into the cloud, recognises you straight away, you've got a more seamless border, but it'll give you things like proper figures on who's in this country and who isn't. Your net migration figures will be a lot more accurate than they are currently, provided that we have the powers to capture and retain those facial images on everybody. That means UK passports, Irish passport, ETA and visa and permanent residence. But I think that's achievable, and I'd love to see that happening in this country.
Thank you.
Probably, if you were to do that in detail analysis, you'd probably find it would be cost neutral in the end.
Okay.
Thank you. Jade Bottrill.
Thanks, Chair. Three of you have expressed disappointment to seeing us scrap the Rwanda scheme as part of this bill. Can I just ask, what part of the 700 million spent by the previous government do you think was good value for money for the taxpayer?
I don't think any of it was good value for money for the taxpayer, was it? I mean, the history speaks for itself and the record, but I think we need to think why it didn't work. I think we need to look at the reasoning behind why it took 3 years, really, to try and get this process going. There was an awful lot of work done in Rwanda and in the Home Office, I know, to try and make this happen, but it was subject to continual legal challenges. And those legal challenges were made both in Europe and in the domestic ports and by judicial reviews. There were flights lined up on a number of occasions that did not happen, and a lot of money was therefore wasted in the process. The other point, I'm not a big fan of the Illegal Migration Act. Actually, I think some of it was cumbersome because it put all of the eggs in the Rwanda basket. Rwanda was a limited programme. Obviously, we could not send everybody to Rwanda, but under the NABA, you had the option to triage and put some people into the Rwanda bucket if you wanted to. Those hard country, removers where you couldn't remove them anywhere else, you had that option, but you could still do what you're doing now and process people from places like Turkey and Albania and put them through the asylum system and return them to source. I think losing that triage option is going to be a big drawback, and it's going to cost a lot more money in the long run because the intake will continue to come, and then you'll have to rack up the associated asylum costs, accommodation costs,